Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07. It's O'Connor and Company here as we wrap up this week and send you into the weekend, informed and hopefully entertained as well, but definitely informed. That
Absolutely informed.
I guarantee that because Patrice Onwuka is here. So
oh, that's kind.
Definitely. And a great slate of guests, including coming up at 8:05, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, and then at 8:35, Brett Baer of Fox News Channel. I am Larry O'Connor along for the ride with Patrice Onwuka. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday.
It's Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears now who joins us. Earlier this week, Governor Youngkin gave his State of the Commonwealth address and flexed his muscles a bit about the 233,000 new jobs 2023 had and also the $5 billion in tax relief. But now, Madam Lieutenant Governor, you are going to face off with a Democrat-led House as well as Senate. So are you eager to preside over the Senate today at 10 a.m.?
I actually look forward to session. And by the way, good morning, Larry, and good morning, Patrice. Good morning to your listeners. I was raised right. You say good morning.
Yes.
Glad someone around here was.
Well, we started actually on Wednesday, so we're into our third day. And so far, so good. But, ask me Monday. We'll see.
Well, I know that a major priority from you said so in your statement after the State of this Commonwealth address, and you've continued to talk about it, is really addressing the education crisis in Virginia. It's gotten better from the Northern regime, but what would you like to see emphasized here with regard to fixing the schools?
Well, I'd like it to be that the money follows the child, that when the parent says, I want something different for my child, we can say, fine, here's the money. Go find the school that you think is best for your child. Why would we stand in the way of a parent? I can't understand when we give parents control of their child's education that's controversial. It doesn't make any sense. So I tell you what else doesn't make any sense. During the governor's State of the Commonwealth address, he had mentioned that we want to make sure that we finally prosecute fentanyl dealers if their victims die. Do you know not one Democrat got up on that and clapped? Wow. Not one Democrat. And there's something else. We also said, the governor did, that if you use a gun during a crime, then we're going to throw the book at you. The Democrats didn't clap for that either. And I'm just wondering. But then here's something else. When the governor said, religious freedom is important, and we need to make sure that everybody has the ability to practice. And he listed the various, religions and that whatever else. They didn't clap for that either. So I don't know. It's just very interesting.
Yeah,
it's telling.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, I think what's also telling, something that was interesting you posted on your Twitter feed, is that you kind of made some news. I mean, the Lieutenant Governor, the House Speaker, and the Senate Pro Tem, President Pro Tem, all black people in a state that was a former capital of the Confederacy. So I just want to highlight that as evidence that America has come very far forward when it comes to race relations, and that, this idea that black people are held back somehow, this is a great example. No, you can actually continue to achieve great things, and you're a great demonstration of that.
And that's the idea. We're going to continue to achieve. We're not going to stay stuck. We're not going to be victims. We are overcomers is what we are. And, the message is the same for everybody, no matter what color you are. Work hard, stay in school, study, you can achieve. That's what I did. I did nothing special. And so, we've just got to stop playing these color games. Our children have to live in peace,
And what a good message right before MLK Day.
Yes.
Sorry, Larry.
That said, Lieutenant Governor Sears, I mean, there is a call now to replace Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, with another black woman. And I went ahead and put your name in the running. Would you? Although I don't know if you're exactly who they had in mind.
Well, what can I say except we need to have people who are, it's not based on color. It's based on, do you know how to do this job?
Yeah.
I mean, plainly and simply, when I get on a plane, I need to know that you, the pilot, you know how to fly this thing.
Yes.
You can land this thing. I don't care what color you are. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. Well, of course, you're alluding to some of the DEI provisions that have been put forth, and corporate America is celebrating, the fact that they're focusing on the color and gender of employees, especially critical employees like airline pilots, rather than who's absolutely the best and most excellent. Are you concerned, and what can we do to address those DEI provisions that are still sort of left over from the Northam and McAuliffe administrations in Virginia?
Well, I tell you that companies who have been putting those practices in place are beginning to realize that the money doesn't respect that. The money respects whether you have the ability to perform the work or not. And otherwise, your customers go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we're finding in government. We have to have people who are qualified. Government, of all places, should not be where we have the least and not the brightest. Because, when I call my government, when I pick up that phone, I need to know that you know exactly where to send me. You have the capability. So I appreciate what people are trying to do in bringing about a more equal society. But you know how that happens? It happens when we ensure everybody has opportunity.
That's
and the
right.
way to do that is with education. Education lifted my dad out of poverty, lifted me out of poverty. I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. We came to America with $1.75. Picture this, Patrice, 7 quarters.
Wow.
Don't tell me that we can't succeed in America.
That's right. Amen. Amen. Now, let's take that $1.75 and let's think about what that $1.75 can buy today. And unfortunately, Lieutenant Governor, it's not much. And I think when we think about just inflation and the rising costs today, it's so hard. So can you talk about what the administration has done when it comes to bringing some financial economic relief to Virginians?
Yeah, so what we have tried to do, and last year we got rid of the state portion of the grocery tax, and of course the other side kept saying that it was a gimmick until President Biden said he thought that they should get rid of the grocery tax or the gas tax, because that's another thing we tried to get rid of. So at least, on that front, he was right. We are trying to actually decrease the taxes that we all pay here in Virginia. We are finding that people are leaving Virginia. We're doing well on so many fronts, but we still have work to do because people are still leaving for states like Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, Texas, Georgia. We're losing them now. New York is losing people too in the higher tax brackets because they're the ones paying the most taxes. We're losing people who pay $100,000 and above. If they leave in any good number, who's going to pay these taxes? Yeah. You've got about 40-50% of Virginians, I believe, who don't pay anything. So we've got to make sure we keep some folks here, and we have to be competitive with the rest of these states. And we want businesses to come here. So, we've just got a lot of good ideas, and I think if we work together, we can achieve a better Virginia.
It's interesting, Lieutenant Governor, because, you say if these people leave our state, who's going to pay the taxes? And, of course, the states they're going to are states like Tennessee, Texas, and Florida, and they don't have any state income taxes. So there could be a fun balance here to figure out, hey, maybe we can finance the Virginia government with something other than income taxes so that people will stay here and people will flock here instead.
Yeah, Governor Bob McDonnell, when he was in office, he had a JLARC study done to investigate what could be done about taxes to broaden the base but lessen the taxes, because I don't want to pay any more taxes than anybody else. You understand? I want to keep as much of my money in my pocket that I worked hard for and not the government, and people believe in that quite a bit, I believe. So what the governor wants to do is to broaden the things that we tax. We haven't been taxing services, and the tech sector, for example, has been getting away with it. We do a lot of things through technology now that we don't do to buying goods anymore. And, when people come as tourists, they will help to pay those taxes, and not simply Virginians. And we got a lot of tourists here because you can't I had a friend one time tell me, I live in a place where Washington slept. I said, man, please. Washington slept everywhere in Virginia.
All right.
History starts here. So, yeah.
We'll let you get back to work. I know it's going to be a busy day for a busy 90 days here coming up with the legislative session. Check in back with us, especially if those Democrats start giving you a hard time.
I think they'll get along. I really do.
Good.
I'm excited.
I think we'll find ways because child care is an issue, and we've got to make sure. So I think what we're going to argue about is the amount. I think that's what we're going to amount.
Yeah.
There.
Well, thank you so much.
Winsome Sears of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good day.
7:17.
WMAL, more than just politics, because laughter is the best medicine. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
In February of 2021, after only 2 weeks in office, President Joe Biden made two critical decisions, Patrice Onwuka.
Okay.
The first was to take the Houthis off of the terror watch list. This is the terrorist group backed by Iran.
Because taking terrorist groups off our terrorist list is a good idea?
Well, because they were good guys now. They were fine because it was Trump's fault that they were terrorists, you see. The Trump administration designated the group that operates out of Yemen as a terrorist group, and apparently that made them bad guys. And all Joe Biden and Jake Sullivan and Antony Blinken had to do was say, nope, you're not terrorists anymore, and then they clean up their act. Then he did one other thing. He stopped selling arms to Saudi Arabia, and here's why he did it.
We're also stepping up our diplomacy to end the war in Yemen, a war which has created a humanitarian and strategic catastrophe. This war has to end. And to underscore our commitment, we are ending all American support for offensive operations in the war in Yemen, including relevant arms sales.
There you go. So we're not going to sell arms to Saudi Arabia, and we're going to take the Houthis off the terror watch list, and that will what now? End the war in Yemen. Right. It didn't end the war in Yemen. And in fact, now the United States is engaged in that war in Yemen, as last night we ordered airstrikes against Houthi forces who have been agitating and disrupting shipping lanes and Navy vessels since October 17th. After 2.5 months of that behavior, we just launched airstrikes. And I'm sorry, maybe it's me, but it looks like the Biden strategy to end the war in Yemen isn't really working.
Well, none of the Biden strategies when it comes to foreign policy, set aside domestic policy, seem to be working or have worked at all. I mean, it's so interesting that, a president who seems to continually get it wrong when it comes to foreign policy wants to pat himself on the back, and then unfortunately months or years later we end up with results like this. We can point back to Afghanistan. We can point to a number of foreign conflicts where the United States is in a weaker position than when he became president. And certainly, if this is what the adults look like being in the room, then maybe it's time for teenagers. I don't know.
U.S. warplanes, ships, and submarines, along with a handful of British fighters. There were British fighter jets also involved in these attacks last night on these sites in Yemen. They were meant to degrade their ability to continue firing drones and missiles to the Red Sea shipping lanes. I want to reemphasize that these Houthi terrorists are funded by Iran, and of course Iran is funded by us with money coming from the U.S. government and also from the U.S. government lifting sanctions. Again, Biden administration lifting sanctions that had been put in place and reinforced under President Trump. Cut 13A here, if we could. What did Joe Biden say at the time when he was instituting all of these new policies?
Diplomacy is back.
Oh, there you go. Diplomacy is back.
Is there not a sense of arrogance here, Larry, in saying that the United States can end a war, end conflict with other countries that we have no direct impact, we have no direct interest in?
Right,
but
100%. All arrogance.
It's so arrogant.
It is 100% arrogance, and of course they're all celebrated. In fact, I kid you not, the cover of Time magazine this week features Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And it's a beautiful portrait of him, and the headline is The Envoy, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Test of American Leadership. Congressman Mike Waltz reminds us all on the X.com platform exactly what's happened under the envoy's leadership. Afghanistan abandoned, war in Europe, Middle East on fire, China on the rise, crisis at our southern border. Yeah, the adults are really back in charge. President Trump, by the way, put out a video yesterday reacting to the military engagement in Yemen. Here, listen.
Joe Biden is not only dumb and incompetent, I believe that he has gone mad a stark, raving lunatic with his horrible and country-threatening environmental open borders and DOJ, FBI weaponization policies. He is a mental catastrophe that is leading our country to hell. We'll end up in World War III because of this man, and for no reason whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you at the end.
As the kids say, where's the lie?
Now
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:36 is the time on this Friday in your nation's capital. Thank you for tuning in here and having O'Connor and Company as part of your morning routine. We truly appreciate it. At 8:05, we'll check in with the Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer of Fox News Channel on all the presidential politics going on right now, as this is the last Friday before the Iowa caucus. Monday is Iowa caucus day, Patrice Onwuka.
Oh,
and
my goodness, we made it to the caucus.
And I've got great news for you, by
What
the way,
is
about the
that?
Iowa caucus. We will not be in Iowa.
Thank God, because it is like frigid.
We love Iowans.
Cold there.
I have been to the Iowa caucus before. It is something everybody who covers politics should do. It's a remarkable experience. But it's going to be like 30 degrees below zero with the wind chill. It's like no one needs that in their life.
My eyeballs feel cold just thinking about it.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be so rough, man. So
only the diehards are going to come out. That's what you're saying. Like the
Yeah.
real folks who are just, I've got to make
No.
sure my guy or gal.
No, not the. Oh, you mean the voters? I was talking about
Yes.
people in the media. It won't be the diehards in the media. It will be the people who are really well paid in the media. It's the only way you get there. But yes, that is an interesting wrinkle to this, and we'll ask Brett Baer about that. When you're caucuses are not like primaries, as you know. I mean, you all know that because you're plugged in. But this is not just showing up anytime during the day and voting and then leaving. No, you got to go out of your way. They all take place in the evening at the same time.
Yeah.
You have to show up to your local place. You're committing a couple of hours to being a part of the scene there.
Yeah.
Driving there and then driving home in that weather, in the cold. It's a commitment. And the question is which candidates will be able to get that kind of commitment from the people who are committed to them.
That's right, which is important because you cannot take it for granted. Even if you think your candidate is 30 points ahead of everyone else,
right?
That's not to say that turnout can't depend on who has the most energy in the room.
Correct. And by the way, going to a caucus is a lot different than just tuning in and watching a television show, of course.
Yeah.
But the kind of ratings that Donald Trump got last week, or this week, I should say, on Wednesday when he did his town hall on Fox News with our guest Brett Baer coming up at 8:35 versus the debate on CNN, it was astounding. I mean, if the ratings are any indication of what kind of support Donald Trump has, then it's not even going to be close. As I mentioned earlier, or excuse me, as I mentioned Thursday when I was reviewing sort of my impression of the two counter-programming things. I don't know if you switched back and forth like I did.
I actually just watched one.
Which one did you watch?
I actually watched CNN.
Oh, did you watch the debate?
Yeah.
So I bounced back and forth, and the difference was remarkable. I mean, it was like DeSantis and Haley were still running. It was like 1996 campaign kind of style. And Trump he had command of the stage. He was affable. He was joking. He had a good grasp of the issues. I'm not saying the other two didn't, but the presentation, the style, which is a big part of running for office these days.
Absolutely, yeah.
Trump's town hall on Fox News drew 4.3 million viewers.
Wow.
And it was something like 70% better than what CNN got with their debate between Haley and DeSantis. So, again, that's not necessarily an indication of who's going to show up at the caucus, but it's certainly an indication that when it comes to television ratings, Trump wins that round. Meanwhile, you remember the whole no labels thing?
Is it still a thing, though?
It's a thing. So they created a whole political party. They've been raising money. Who knows who's been funding this thing? And Larry Hogan, the former governor of Maryland, was the chairman of the board of this no labels thing, or the no labels president, excuse me. No, wait. I'm sorry. Let me reset. He was not the chairman or the president. He was on the board.
Okay.
All right. The president and CEO of No Labels, Nancy Jacobson, announced yesterday that he was resigning as the co-chair. There you go. He was I thought he had a title of some sorts on it. He announced yesterday that he is resigning as co-chair of the No Labels board. Now, on the face of it, that means, so he's no longer on board with the whole third-party thing? He doesn't like No Labels? No. Actually, most people see this as an indication that he's ready to jump in and run on this third-party ticket. He can't run and be on the board at the same time.
That's right.
So there's speculation that he'll be doing that.
Well, sorry, Larry. There had to be a good reason why he would pass up the opportunity to run for Senate in Maryland, which, frankly, I think we've all said would have been a shoo-in for him, unless he thought he could have run for president. That's right. And maybe made some headway, and that it seemed like it wasn't going to happen on the Republican ticket, so maybe this makes sense. Yeah,
but first of all, no one in the third party is going to win. I'm sorry to break it to you. But secondly, who will he harm? You would think that Larry Hogan wants to harm Donald Trump.
No, he's not going to.
I don't see a state where a third party Larry Hogan candidate is going to hurt Trump more than it's going to hurt Biden. But I could be reading that wrong. Meanwhile, Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, who has run for office a couple of times now, he made a very cryptic announcement on X yesterday via video. Watch.
Hey, everybody. As you know, I've been pretty quiet about the presidential race, which is kind of unusual for me. But tune in tomorrow morning, and I've got something very important to say on the presidential race.
All right, now tomorrow morning is this morning,
yeah.
Like right now, and he has not put out whatever statement he expects to make, but I wonder, what do you think it might be?
I think he's going to throw his support behind Trump.
Do you?
Yeah.
You know, that's probably true. And he was a big supporter of Donald Trump during the Trump presidency and during the 2016 campaign. But I just want to throw one little thing out there.
Okay.
Earlier this week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent candidate, put out a picture of him visiting Rand Paul in his office this week. And talking about Rand Paul's book. You know, his book is all about – Rand Paul is all about Fauci, all about the vaccine, all about COVID. There's one candidate who has focused a huge part of his race on that issue, on Fauci, on the virus, and on the vaccine, and that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Rand Paul, as much of a good Republican as he is, he's also got a very independent streak. I'm just throwing it out there. What if that could actually get a lot of attention?
That would get a lot of attention. However, maybe that is the issue of vaccines and the medical community, how it was treated in censorship, is probably the one issue area where they would agree. I can't imagine Rand Paul would agree with RFK Jr. on federal spending. I can't.
He agrees. Maybe. He certainly agrees with him on national security policy.
Oh, okay. So I see the concentric circles
that the VP
saying. Loves.
I'm saying.
I'm drawing that concentric circle, but it's not that big. The overlap is not that wide.
You heard it here. If it happens, remember you heard it here first.
From
a Rand Paul, Robert F. Kennedy ticket is all I'm saying.
Can I then say a Christie Governor Hogan ticket? Yes.
Oh, they're best friends. That's quite possible. All right, there's more, actually, now that I look at it. We've got more we'll get to, so we will give you more presidential politics news in just a moment. But first, at 7:45, WMAL.
As you know, I've been pretty quiet about the presidential race, which is kind of unusual for me. But tune in tomorrow morning, and I've got something very important to say on the
That's Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky. It's now 7:50 the morning that he's supposed to say something important about the presidential race. He hasn't said anything yet.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
I know. My speculation is that he'll be announcing not only that he's supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but he will, in fact, be the eventual running mate on that independent ticket. It's going to be Kennedy Paul. Wow. And here's why. You know why I think that's going to happen?
Why?
First of all, because they share their concerns over the vaccine and the virus and Fauci and all that stuff, but also because anything that helps legitimize Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Hurts Joe Biden and helps Donald Trump. This is 4D chess, my friends.
Okay.
Trump's behind this, in fact. All right. Meanwhile, Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, this didn't get a whole lot of attention, but it should.
Mm-hmm.
The evening that Chris Christie dropped out of the race,
yes,
and that debate happened that excluded Vivek Ramaswamy from the debate stage on CNN. It was just DeSantis versus Haley.
Mm-hmm.
He put out this homemade video on social media, and it people should pay attention to it because it's kind of newsworthy. Listen.
The system wants to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. And it has become increasingly clear that puppet is not a Democrat. It's not even Gavin Newsom. It's Nikki Haley. It's in our own party. Well, today, one more step in that plot unfolds. Chris Christie drops out. Next up, I'm going to make a prediction. You're actually going to see Ron DeSantis join Nikki Haley's ticket. He's going to be her VP. The whole game, it's hiding in plain sight. Whatever it takes. And this system will stop at nothing. And I mean nothing. To eliminate Donald Trump from contention. It's disgusting. But the same people who have said they're not going to actually take a principled stand against Trump's removal from the ballot. Haley and DeSantis are both in that category. Do the math, people. That's next up. Ron DeSantis is...
Now, say what you will about this. And so what he's saying is basically they're doing whatever they can to set it up so they can remove, at the convention, they'll remove Trump from the ticket, even though he wins the primaries, and it'll all be set up for a Haley DeSantis thing. You may think that that's wrong and that's not going to happen. But the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy, who is actually a candidate, is predicting that Haley is going to be the candidate, the nominee, and that's kind of newsworthy, and yet everyone's ignoring it.
It's newsworthy.
It's hugely newsworthy.
And so, it's what's interesting. Guess what's in the editorial for the Washington Examiner this morning? The headline: DeSantis Haley is the best replacement for Biden. And the editorial team at the Washington Examiner literally says it's his governing ability and her foreign policy chops together. That's going to knock off Trump and win. That this morning.
Yeah, but win how? Win with votes in the primary and caucus, or win with a convention?
Good question. Well,
revolution?
They don't go into the how. They just say this is what it should be.
Yeah, don't look at the details. We don't want you to look at that.
Wow.
Well, there you go. Again, say what you will about Vivek Ramaswamy and whether you agree or disagree, but the fact that he's running and he said he's on the record now saying that he thinks this is going to happen, and why is the media ignoring that? 7:53.